It's a strategy that might not be the most honorable thing to do. But when you got to choose between honor and wins, a lot of teams are going to take the wins. We'll see if Splyce can find that win here, or if 100 Thieves can do the same for themselves. Remember, with the outcome of last game, EU has already secured victory for themselves in the group stage here at Rift Rivals. So this game is all about pride and glory.
And I think when it comes to pride, for 100 Thieves, we've seen multiple times now them kind of go with different strategies. It's been Brandini, Levi in their first game. It was like, this looks like we're going to bring the new guys in and play around them instead of have them play around the rest of the team. Then it was Cody Sun having to be one of the big carries in the later game. And now it's like, what are they going to go with? Is it going to be a funnel Levi, not on a Graves, but on a champion that's a little more, I would say, appropriate for the funnel strategy? Because if it's your last game in the group stage and it doesn't have, I guess the result doesn't matter so much. You want to find what works for your team as you go into the regional face-off tomorrow.
And I feel like for 100 Thieves, one of the things that kind of has worked for them so far during the regular season is those funnel comps, and that's why Splyce have thrown a lot of bans towards taking that away, with both the Braum and Rakan taken off the board. I like the respect ban to Levi as well. Nocturne, still a bit of a nightmare for many European teams after Worlds of last year.
Who could forget such a memorable game?
Who can forget the level 6 Nocturne by like 4 minutes into the game or something crazy?
It was funnel before there was funnel.
Yeah, right? Yeah, Levi was ahead of the time. So that's going to be taken off the board. 100 Thieves looks like they're prioritizing the Swain. Now, you obviously have a lot of flexibility with this champion, so still many options left for the North American representatives.
I really hope Splyce locks this in. They're not going to. They end up picking the Ezreal and the Alistar. Pretty standard stuff coming out of the EU squad here. Vedius, you already mentioned the Swain first pick of the entire draft there for 100 Thieves, while their bans are the Aatrox, the Zoe, and the Heimerdinger. Once again, showing respect to some of these picks that NA is not normally used to seeing.
Yeah, ended up being very powerful picks, but you don't have much time to learn them completely, especially a champion like Heimerdinger. He actually has a lot of intricacies to him, and you have to put in a lot of games. That's why I was kind of, well, the people who play Heimer really play Heimerdinger, and they put in the time. So you can't just pick that champion up and be an expert.
It's so much different from playing against most other champions, too. Just having to play around the turrets, having to expect the damage.
It's so annoying, dude. You don't respect the poke, and it can be very challenging to deal with. And I imagine that in week 4 of the NA LCS, you'll be seeing a couple more Heimer rearing their heads. But bringing it back to this game, it looks like Morgana going to be locked in for the bot lane of 100 Thieves. It's kind of what you expect. Means that Ryu or Brandini could look to pick up the Swain. I do feel like Ryu has so far played the Swain at least once this split, and I'm sure that it is a comfortable champion for him. But again, a lot of flexible options that 100 Thieves have given themselves.
Splyce hovering yet another fan favorite type of champion. We'll see if they lock in the Zed. Looks like they're going to go with something a bit more safe instead this time around. Sejuani locked in. Pretty big front line already for Splyce so far, with both Alistar and Sejuani picked up in the first half of the draft.
And I would assume this means that you're going to be banning the Trundle in some way, shape, or form, because it synergizes with the Swain, and it really does shut down the Sejuani with the passive and Aftershock stealing the stats with Subjugate. So I expect that to be Splyce's second ban after this Kindred.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And for 100 Thieves, when you kind of look at what you want to take off the board, you're just looking at things like potential mid laners, potential top laners. But you've also got to remember that Splyce have first pick, which means that if you try to ban out some of the other strong potential top laners, they then get priority on locking in a strong top lane answer. But it looks like mid lane is going to be the focus, given that Swain seems to be gearing towards that lane.
Yeah, and the thing that I'm wondering here for 100 Thieves is it a Dr. Mundo ban that comes through? Is it an Ornn ban? Because both those champions can go to the top lane and fill out the roster for Splyce and give them a decent amount of engage that will help them. But there's the Trundle ban. And now for 100 Thieves, I really think it's kind of one or the other, Dr. Mundo or the Ornn here.
I mean, thinking about what is left available, you know, I think you highlight 2 good top laners as well, but thinking about some of the mids that are available, Talir is still a potential option that we have seen drafted into mid lane, obviously usually prioritized as a jungler, but still incredibly strong even after the nerfs. Interestingly, they go for the Rumble, kind of implying that they are heading towards the top side of the map in terms of, because I mean, you think about Rumble and Ornn, both usually do fine into the Rumble, so there must be a particular matchup in mind that they don't want to run the risk of playing against the Rumble.
Let's see how Splyce decide to go about this. 2 picks left to go. First up in the second half of the draft, as is red team's right. Thinking about the Vladimir, locking that one in.
Very flexible as well. Can end up going to the top lane, the mid lane. Even bot, but because there's Ezreal, you wouldn't assume that it's going there.
Right.
We'll see who that ends up going to later. But 100 Thieves, right now, Brandini, I know he's a very good Shen player and usually defaults to that. Shen, Ornn, both kind of come to mind for Brandini.
I do feel like that so far Splyce have drafted themselves a pretty strong team fight composition. There's also a lot of magic damage, so looking at kind of what's a good answer to that, Mundo is naturally one of the immediate responses. But you also kind of look at the pick potential that 100 Thieves have with the Swain and the Morgana. They don't really have a good way to start fights yet, so when you're looking at how to round out their composition, if team fighting is the direction that they want to go to, which you would imagine with a Swain and a Lucian, a bit of engage is what I'd like to see.
Well, there's a Skarner. That's a pretty good engage. You can drag a guy back into your own team, make it so he's isolated, put him in a spot where he doesn't have backup. That can work out pretty well. Plus, I can tell you right now, one of Skarner's best friends on Summoner's Rift is Morgana. Nobody's going to stop you when you got the Black Shield.
Yeah, I was about to be like, does this look like a composition that you'd want to run Skarner against? Not usually, but the Morgana makes it so that Skarner gets to have free will. But look at this, another mage here, so a lot of magic damage. The Mundo's going to pay off in spades for 100 Thieves. And so far, the composition's just locked in, and now we need to see, I assume it would be the Ryze mid, Vladimir top.
Yes, that's kind of what you'd expect. Nisqy, very well known for his Ryze, at the very least in the European LCS. And Odo, he's played Vlad a couple times. He loves to be aggressive, and he's going to be happy to be able to play a carry on the top side of the map. But it feels like we've got a lot of team fighting coming out from the side of Splyce, with a bit more pick potential from the side of 100 Thieves.
I remember talking to Ezreal about Mundo when he was starting to become popular and getting into the meta. And Ezreal mentioned how he thinks it just feels like such a ridiculously good setup for Mundo when the entire top half of the enemy team, top, jungle, and mid, are all AP, because you can just prioritize those big magic resistance items. You can get a big early Spirit Visage and make yourself nigh immortal. Sure, if you get into a fight and Ezreal's just allowed to auto-attack you 57 times, you'll still die. But against most of the threats you're going to be encountering, he is going to be impossible to kill.
And even then, it's an Ezreal. It's not this crit-based marksman that's going to be able to shred you down. Doesn't really get armor shred almost any part of the game, and sometimes people opt to not even go for a Last Whisper item in their builds when they're completed. The Blade of the Ruin King is kind of the one that you would expect him to get to deal with the Mundo.
And boys, while that is very true, Splyce's goal is not to kill the front line. They're all about killing the back line. You know, you're going to have that Vladimir flanking in from the side. Alistar's going to be paired up with him. Ryze can do a huge amount of AoE damage in these team fights as well, which is only going to be further amplified by the Vladimir ultimate. So while Mundo is great, he's not going to offer a huge amount of peel for champions like the Lucian. So these team fights are going to be challenging for 100 Thieves if they don't find an early lead and they don't use this pick power that they have with this composition.
This could be a really fun game for not just Mundo in general, but Brandini on Mundo. There was some criticism towards Brandini in 100 Thieves' games yesterday because people were saying, oh, 100 Thieves, Brandini didn't have such a great first game playing in Rift Rivals. But at the same time, the composition wasn't set up in a way that was really there for him to succeed. He wasn't the member everybody was playing around. This game is much more conducive to him being able to put in some work.
Yeah, he was in a matchup where it was Rumble versus Aatrox, and he was camped by 3 people, and he didn't have a jungler because they were funneling. So
right, it's impossible to do anything.
100% Brandini, kind of a redemption game is on the table for him here with this Mundo pick that should do well in this matchup in terms of farming, and then later on in this game in terms of just being this gigantic beef ball where everybody's throwing AP or magic damage at him and he'll be able to resist up.
I've also got my eyes on both these AD carries because I feel like in this tournament and somewhat during the regular season, they haven't had the most amount of praise. Kobbe in his 2 versus 2 has not been playing optimally, and Cody Sun just earlier today, he kind of got crushed by Bwipo and Hylissang in the bottom lane and making a couple of questionable decisions. So when you kind of look at these 2 AD carry players, which is what they are able to play in this game, it's kind of a bit of a redemption for them, kind of an opportunity to prove that we are still relevant. Yes, we struggled against some of the top performing teams from both respective regions, but when we go up against someone who you kind of expect to be on a more similar level, you can have that better performance and say, listen, the gap was just a bit too big between us and them, but we're still good players and we still have a lot to prove.
Proving yourself, the name of the game here, as both sides really want to get that first win, make themselves look like contenders coming out of group stage, going into that big relay race tomorrow.
And looking at the kind of game plans of both teams, you know, we talked a little bit last game about early game focus? Will either teams really look to try and force those plays? I think you have a lot of opportunities with 100 Thieves in the bot lane and around the mid lane. A lot of setup with the Swain. And whenever you're paired up with a Morgana, if you ever land that binding, there's a huge risk of losing your life. But for Splyce, I feel like their focus should be towards the top side of the map. You both talked about how great Mundo is into these AP champions, but when you have a Ryze who can use his ulti to set up a dive towards the top lane, Vladimir just naturally a pretty good diving champion, and Mundo being pretty weak in the early game, I'd love to see Splyce invest those resources into the top side of the map, try and get Odoamne ahead, and shut Brandini down.
Nice binding there onto Kobbe in the brush. Aphromoo able to find that early game accuracy. Unfortunately for 100 Thieves, it doesn't really result in much of anything, and Aphro will eat a Mystic shot immediately thereafter. 100 Thieves seem pretty confident in the bottom lane so far. Aphro's not going to connect on that second one, but they'll just continue shoving this up and trying to maintain control.
Yeah, he's just fishing for bindings to get a tiny bit of damage, but right now, Kobbe's just got the Doran's shield, he has biscuits, health potion, so it's just kind of chipping away and trying to find whatever advantage you can here.
Ryu will keep pushing up in the mid lane. Nisqy forced underneath the turret, but he's just fine with that. Farming up on the Ryze, wants to get to the point where he can go back, grab the tier, come back and start stacking that one up to get on that mana train that Ryze wants to be on so he can scale up and hit those big power points.
Speaking of stacking, something that actually kind of sucks about this Splyce composition is that nobody, except for the Alistar, can help him stack the passive. So when you go to gank lanes, you're with all these ranged champions that can't actually assist you in your passive stun. So your ganks are actually far weaker in the early game than normal. Because you usually have a melee top laner of some kind, and sometimes you have a melee mid laner, but mostly it's that top lane where if you want to get on this Mundo, you really do have to guarantee you land both parts of your W as the Sejuani.
And not only is it naturally made weaker, but 100 Thieves are making it even harder by all the vision they invested into River. They put 2 very early wards down into the top side River and took the early Scuttle Crab, but Xerxe, he's actually decided to come through the lane. Notice that Brandini is playing super defensive, but the fact that already Xerxe increasing his jungle proximity with his top laner, bit of a redemption after the 0% game that he had back in week 2 of the EU LCS, showing that Splyce do have the idea of, let's play around our top side, let's try and get Odo ahead.
I can't remember who it was that said it in our post-day story meeting, but someone mentioned to have a 0% jungle proximity means you didn't even accidentally back at the same time. You were never anywhere close to this guy at any point.
Yep.
Yeah, that was Jack. But I have a feeling that, you know, Xerxe may have heard that, been like, I'm going to show you guys I'm back in 0% this.
As soon as I see him back, and I'm going to recall too.
It's like that time that Bjergsen heard about his lowest control wards.
Oh, nice binding there. Down on Splyce members. Kasing in some trouble. Goes back in, but no way out. And first blood goes over to Aphromoo.
So 100 Thieves had push in bot. They had the push in mid. Levi was already making his way into the river. And it's simply a numbers game, given that 100 Thieves had more people. They were able to find a kill onto Kasing. And first blood goes over to the North American squad.
Yeah, really well played there from Aphromoo. The binding when it's up against the wall to guarantee that he can't juke to the left. Because as soon as Kasing goes, it's like, oh, he has to go that way, or he goes back towards Levi. And then the black shield on top of it to prevent Levi from actually getting knocked up by the pulverize.
Feels so good to make sure that you don't get denied by those CC combinations. Levi getting the assist for himself here on this Skarner. Will be level 6 pretty soon. Still has the flash available. Chilling Smite as well. I really like seeing Chilling Smite on Skarner. I know a lot of people do take Skirmisher Saber. Chilling Smite is a wonderful tool for being able to close extra distance and set yourself up to better be able to hit the Fracture. So I like Levi's decision making in this one to make it so he can get those big clutch pulls, because that's his job, right? Get a pull on the Ryze, get a pull on the Ezreal, do that, and you found your mark.
Do you think you'll go Trinity Force?
I don't think we're going to see Chad Skarner in the final game. As much as I would love to see it, I doubt it's going to happen. I guess we'll have to wait and find out.
Are you implying that it is a risky build, Captain?
No, I know it's a risky build. That's the nature of the Chad build, Vedius. We've been over this.
So Brandini now hitting level 6. Diving him becomes that much harder, so Splyce yet to really find kind of any early plays. We've seen Xerxe hanging around, but hasn't really tried to force anything. Even though Odo is sitting on a pretty nice CS advantage, that's going to start to mean less and less once Brandini goes back to base and completes his first big magic resist item, and then he becomes a lot harder to kind of poke and shove out of lane.
TP bottom side, just going to be Kobbe showing back up to lane to make sure he doesn't miss out on any farm.
Levi has the ultimate.
Here he comes.
Oh, he's channeling. He's ready to go.
Where's the black shield?
Levi wants to get in there, try to find that pull. There you go. Does not mark him with the E beforehand. Does not apply the butt twist. And because of that, Kasing gets away.
Oh, yeah, and Aphromoo wasn't there to even apply a black shield. He was back in base, and they just said, this is the time to go.
What I mean, for those of you who don't understand that reference, because I realize there might be
twist?
people out there who don't.
No, you don't need to explain it.
As Skarner, when you're pulling someone backwards, at the very end of the ult, click right in front of you, and you will twist your butt around and pull them behind you, get extra distance, and make it so if they flash away, they're still in auto attack range to proc your E.
Wow, that's high-level Skarner
Only
mechanic.
Skarner mechanic there is.
I mean, it's more than my Nocturne mechanic, so congratulations.
It is the only thing you can do.
I saw your montage, Vedius.
Yeah, it was...
I've never had a montage before. You
That's
got me
true.
beat.
So, another advantage gained in terms of the bot lane. The problem is Levi actually used his flash in that gank, which means that he won't have that available if he wants to try and set up a play elsewhere. Splyce, though, still not being as proactive as I would have liked to see. They are hitting those level 6s, level 7 marks now, so if they're going to make a play, now should be the time. But the one thing I can confidently say that America always has in terms of beating EU is that they love to fight. And if they see an opportunity to do so, they will certainly take it. So 100 Thieves, now they've got a couple levels under their belt, they have a bit of a gold lead. They will look for these opportunities around the map. And Levi is going to be the big instigator for that.
Levi being the playmaker. It's what you said in Champion Select, Vedius. The team was looking pretty solid. It needed some engage. The Skarner was the final pick here. That was what they decided to round out the composition with. Levi so far, of course, 1 assist because they do only have 1 kill on the board. Flash still a way away from being back up, but once that ulti cooldown becomes ready, you can expect to see this guy making his way back to the lane. Predator also still available.
It's kind of what you're expecting, and looking across some of the item builds that are being worked towards, double tier from the side of Kobbe and Nisqy. It looks like Odoamne is working towards that Proto Bell. Pretty conventional stuff from him, and there's that early magic resistance from Brandini, and you can see that Odo not quite as dominant in the laning phase now that that has been completed, along with what looks like a Rod of Ages starting to be built by Ryu, and the Blade of the Ruin King starting to be developed by Cody Sun. So these first big item spikes starting to be developed from both sides, but you know that 100 Thieves is going to hit them that bit sooner, just because they found this early gold lead, and you're going up against a double tier comp.
Want to point out also the early stopwatch for Ryu's Swain. Does have that one available for the first fight he gets into with the big ultimate, so we'll see how that plays out. We've seen that item turn a lot of fights in a lot of different states of the game, so if he has that available and can find the right moment, that might be the make or break in one of these upcoming skirmishes. Levi looking for the opportunity to make something happen here. He does have Spire available, which means Skarner is super fast, but will not decide to go in there onto Xerxe. That's not really the target you want to look to pull.
Yeah, it doesn't have the flash anymore from before, so no flash pull available. And they're just fighting over the Spire, fighting over positioning on this Cloud Drake, or at least more of the river. I think people don't really fight over Cloud Drake that much. The river's a little more important.
Having that vision control just also gives you the freedom to roam around the map a little bit more. And when you are playing this Alistar, you would kind of expect it to be one of those more roaming, engage-style champions. And Kasing right now has hit the level 6 mark. He sees that Levi is in the bottom side of the map.
Scuttle.
And 100 Thieves could be looking to set up a bit of a dive bot, but with Xerxe there, with Ryze pushing in the mid-wave, it would be a bit of a risk for 100 Thieves to overcommit to that.
Yeah, as a jungler, it's like people tell you to come to your lane. No, screw that. Scuttle crab.
Like,
It's a lot of
there's a
gold.
crab on the map. I don't care what's happening in your lane. Just give me the crab.
Yeah. And you better help me get it.
Yeah, this is how League of Legends works now. Crab is priority.
What are you being pushed under your turret? The crab is alive.
Yeah.
You gotta get over here,
Yeah,
man.
come to the crab. I don't understand what you don't understand about these on my wayping.
You must hate mid lane towns that run Smite then, because one
Yep.
of their big go-tos is, I'm getting that crab for me.
Yeah, they take it.
Well, no, that's just Smite practice for the next big Baron 50-50. They're just helping you help yourself.
Or do you practice 50-50 smites with your mid laner?
No, that's what I mean. Yeah, I have to outsmite the tower
I
to get the
see.
crab. So then I can outsmite the enemy
So
jungler
it's all
to get the Baron.
teamwork at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
at the end of the day, we're all still working together as Levi and Afro work together to take down that Cloud Drake. Like you guys mentioned, we don't really have fights over these. You just take it when you have the chance to out-macro your opponent, get there just a little bit faster, and that one's going to go the way of 100 Thieves. Now that they've got that objective, they'll have to look for something else to set up around here. Remember, we almost have the flash back up on the Skarner. We do have the ultimate available there. Flash is up on the other 4 members of 100 Thieves, but all summoners are also ready and raring to go on the side of Splyce. So as soon as we do see one of these fights break out, it's going to be all over the place with everyone having all that outplay potential from all of those summoner spells.
Well, that's what we'd hope, anyway. There is the risk that neither of the teams fight, and it just becomes a slow macro game with, ooh, let's wave manipulation.
Don't you put that evil on us, Vedius. Don't you put that evil on this.
Well, I mean, it's happened before with Splyce. They won a game with only like 7 kills at the very end of it, and that's the risk. You know, you got to come prepared with material when casting a Splyce game. You know, have you got any jokes ready in case things start to slow down?
I already used the Skarner mechanic
he's
information.
done.
I told you he has
It's
one
all up to you.
mechanic. I already gave my informational point.
One guy in the audience loved that.
Well, hey, I bet he learned a lot about Skarner today.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people did. I'm glad I was able to help you, audience, in chat, but I think the help has reached the end of the line here. 100 Thieves will push up the bottom lane, put some pressure onto that turret a little bit with that minion wave. Levi will grab himself another red buff, put him in prime ganking position. You can see the crystalline bracer? Arm guard bracer. Indeed, it is a bracer, and his inventory means the Righteous Glory is likely going to be the pick that he goes for as the second item here. Makes that playmaking so much more effective when you can just run at the guy like a bat out of hell and chase him down with the pull.
Yeah, and I also believe that he has the reduction to your active items. So the Predator is a lower cooldown. Having the Righteous Glory is also a lower cooldown as well. So big fan of Ingenious Hunter.
Yeah, if you're going to go with the Predator, Righteous Glory type of build, Ingenious Hunter is an absolutely wonderful rune to take and make it so you have those playmaking tools more readily available. Splyce will now look to hand off the blue buff to Nisqy, who is level 11 on this Ryze, farming up nicely for himself, 154 to 140 CS. Bottom side, though, it's a CS lead on the side of 100 Thieves, but both solo lanes do go to Splyce.
And the important thing here is to look at the items that have been completed, because you can see across the board for the side of 100 Thieves, they've actually completed their first major item, the Spirit's Visage, the Rod of Ages, and the Blade of the Ruined King. So in terms of item spikes, 100 Thieves are actually stronger at this point in the game, and if they were to try and force a fight, now would actually be a great time. And with Levi hanging around the mid lane, I feel like this is the kind of proactivity we need to be seeing from 100 Thieves. When you're playing against the double tier, they are not strong at this point. They need to get to that 20-25 minute mark before they really feel confident to force a fight. So proactivity, playmaking, that's what I want to see from the 100 Thieves at this point in the game.
Well, you just saw Levi use the Predator there in mid lane. Wasn't quite able to find the opportunity to jump on anyone from Splyce, as Brandini looks for the 1v1 against Odoamne here. Power Transfusion, going to make sure to keep him at a good enough health state to not really be in danger of any sort of a dive. Brandini will just keep Cleaver farming.
Yeah, missed that Cleaver, would have followed up afterwards with another E, but that's what it's about. As soon as you can start getting those Cleavers and landing them onto Vladimir once the wave is thinned out a tiny bit, then you're in a much better place in the matchup. And it looks like Odoamne is going for the Spellbinder over the Proto Belt here. It's kind of something that Vladimir's shifted over to, and we see it sometimes with the Proto Belt. Everybody's just kind of like all over the Spellbinder after it got a few buffs.
I mean, when you've got the ability to have all the extra move speed and ability power, it's exactly what the doctor ordered for a champion like Vladimir. Get into the back line, hit like a truck, and then go into the Sanguine Pool, make it so you find your way out without needing to stick around for a second rotation. Brandini's still looking for more of that damage, but Odoamne's Crimson Rushes are just going to continue making sure that he stays high enough HP to deal with this Mundo in the top lane. We've essentially reached the classic top lane stalemate. If you hit me, I hit you. Both health bars are going to stay the same, and we'll kill the minion.
But he is keeping him underneath the turret so he can't go and check this area and push Levi off, because right now you can see Kasing on his way over. Same with Xerxe.
Oh, are they going to fight? Are they actually going to fight?
We might see it here, boys. 100 Thieves in control.
Let's
the
go!
Skarner Fire TP is going to be coming in, though. Looking to make the collapse onto Brandini. Splyce want to find this Mundo first. It's Levi who's stunned up here on the Skarner. Immediately goes for the pull, able to drag back Nisqy, who's the first one to fall here in the fight. Kasing likely going to be second. Aphromoo goes right into the stopwatch. And 100 Thieves are committing murder in the river. A double kill for Levi. It's a 5-0 game all of a sudden.
And this is exactly what we talked about, gentlemen. The item spikes are there for 100 Thieves. They are stronger at this point in the game. And Splyce, all they did was look to focus in on the Mundo. Everything was going in favor of the 100 Thieves. They completely obliterate Splyce off the face of the map, and they've now extended this gold lead to about 2.5K.
Yeah, it looked like Splyce were saying, we want to go for a pick, not a full-on team fight. And then when everybody from 100 Thieves showed up, They had already blown the Vladimir ultimate. They had already used a lot to get into that fight, and then it was just a big cleanup there because Vladimir ultimate gets used just on Brandini on the top side, and that was the flash already from Kasing. So they're already using a lot on this Mundo that just soaks things up, and there's nobody here to follow up on the Levi damage, who gets black shielded, and then he just grabs Nisqy, pulls him right into his AD carry.
Yep, and it was just a well-executed fight from the side of 100 Thieves. Brandini doing his job of just soaking up the damage and running away, baiting Splyce into the waiting and warm embrace of the squad, who very quickly and aptly disposed of the opposition.
And if you were trying to look for a silver lining there for Splyce, you could have said, well, they got the Rift Herald. But yes, they did secure the kill onto the Rift Herald. Unfortunately, the eye sat in the river until it faded away. Nobody from the Splyce squad was able to pick that one up in time, which means 100 Thieves not only found the kill, but managed to neutralize the objective as well. Total gain for them, as Splyce now finds themselves in a pretty difficult spot trying to defend this mid lane turret.
And now Splyce's best win condition is wait for late game. Get to 2 and 3 items. Rely on your team fighting composition to turn this game back in your favor, which in the past they have been known for, but it all depends on how well 100 Thieves can push the advantage that they've got. 3,000 gold is the advantage that they've built for themselves. They have their eyes set on this mid-tier 1. Splyce need to concede, or this gold lead could build even more.
The Thieves still looking to pressure this. Levi pops the Righteous Glory, gonna be stunned up. Chain CC, no way out of that one. A nice shutdown going over the way of Splyce. They found a kill onto the jungler, looking to make one happen onto Ryu now as well. Stopwatch keeping him alive. He lets out the flare, but it's not enough, and Odoamne makes it 2-0.
And they had 2 kills back there because of the overcommitment to the turret. Levi got caught out, and then they lose 2 on top of it. So Splyce right back in it. I was about to say, if they want to scale, they're going to have to slow things down and get a little bit back, but right there, that's exactly what Splyce needed.
Yeah, finding that punish down onto Levi definitely buys you a little bit more time, and this was just an overcommitment. You hit the nail on the head there, Zirene. Like, they didn't need to. They had bot pushing in. Vladimir was up towards the top side of the map, and they just had to be more patient, wait for the next wave to come. That tower was eventually going to drop, but in the end, they overstayed. Splyce were very quick to find that pick, and now the gold gap has closed ever so slightly.
And the Q was the Morgana shield, because he used it on Cody Sun. Cody Sun was backing up, and Levi was right in front of him. So as soon as that Morgana shield was used on somebody that wasn't on the front line, they're just going to throw down the Ryze route into the Sejuani ultimate, and that's how they got that kill. So you have to watch where you're using that black shield, because the other team is watching where you're using that black shield, and if you ever use it incorrectly, you're going to get punished by this pick.
Well, Splyce definitely bought themselves some time with those kill pickups, but they didn't find anything else. There were no objectives claimed by the team off of those picks, and now it's that same mid lane tier 1 that's under pressure, ultimately falls to the side of 100 Thieves. The gold lead builds back up, and the Thieves head straight towards the Drake. This will be their second one of the game, and it is another Cloud Drake, so they're compounding that movement speed, making those rotations easier. And again, Cloud Drake, it gives in-combat movement speed these days, so it will make the initiations and the gap closing easier for the champions like the Swain and the Skarner and the Mundo here as well.
Turns your small little scorpion legs into rollerblades with jetpacks so that he can just zoom on in, get the target that he wants, lock him down, and then start the team fight in favor of 100 Thieves. But you can see that Splyce setting up a lot of vision towards the top side of the map, not only to secure their first tower of the game, but also to just maintain some control around this Baron, because 2 items are starting to come through for the 100 Thieves. Splyce aren't quite at that point yet because they're still stacking up this tier on Kobbe, and they feel that right now they're not in a position to really go for these fights, but they do not want to give away this Baron for free, and they want to just try and mitigate that pressure as much as possible.
Yeah, something that I'm worried about for Splyce is just how long do they need to wait to get to quote-unquote late game where this composition will work against 100 Thieves, because they're so heavily indexed on magic damage, and 100 Thieves have a lot of durability. Swain is semi-tank, you have the Black Shield that's going to be good against magic damage, and then you have the Mundo and the Skarner on top. You have a good mix of both types of damage, because Mundo is actually a big damage threat, and people don't always consider that, but tankiness on top of it. And this is the easiest Merc Treads buy you're ever going to have in your life across the board for 100 Thieves. So I actually feel like Splyce, it's going to be so difficult for them to actually win this game based on the compositions against each other and the point that 100 Thieves is at now.
I agree.
I do like Nisqy's Morellonomicon being fully completed to shut down some of the healing coming out from Brandini with the level 2 ultimate available on the Mundo. That would be 75% total health regenerated without grievous wounds. So he's going to Nisqy's going to need to make sure he keeps that spell damage applied to Brandini over the course of the ulti. Should one of these team fights break out here soon, Aphromoo looking to fire off a binding there as Levi wants to go in. Righteous Glory gets popped, but he doesn't decide to go any further with that one. Even though he could have been immune with the Black Shield, there's the potential of a lot of damage coming through, and breaking it, Chain CC then applying would have surely spelled demise for everybody's favorite Scorpion. Sitting on 2-1 and 3 right now, 100% kill participation. But remember, him getting caught out was the last thing that really caused a thorn in the side of 100 Thieves.
Oh, for sure. And I'm wondering when these QSSs will start to come through from the side of Splyce. I feel like they are very, very important. But not only that, you're going up against the Morgana as well and the Swain. So a lot of single target CC that you have to be careful of. Ooh, face check, but it's Sejuani. We're good. We're good.
The funny thing is I don't think they will go QSS. It seems strange, but I think if they go QSS, you're abandoning too much damage or durability that you would need from that gold in order to fight this composition.
Too much lost tempo.
Yeah, that's actually the perfect way to put it, is you lose too much tempo in your inventory. Because sometimes you're afforded that luxury, right? Things like we've seen first item QSSs on like Aurelia.
We don't talk about that. We don't talk about that. But I do love the vision that's being set up from 100 Thieves right now around this Baron. Their focus for the time being is on this tier 2, and it sets up nicely for some of the vision to just disappear around the Baron that Splyce do have for themselves. Ryze is now making his way up. This is a window of opportunity where Splyce could look to fight if they want to. Remember, the tier is now fully stacked on the side of Kobbe. They could be going for it. 100 Thieves just disengage once again.
Splyce do have to be careful, though. Remember, when you go onto this 100 Thieves side, it's exactly like Vedius was saying. They're very tanky. We'll see how well this pays off for them. Kasing trying to get himself away here. Levi knows he can pull him, but at the same time, Alistar ulti going to negate that one. Odoamne in some trouble, going to be cold very, very low. Aphromoo fires off yet another binding, not going to find anything from that.
Somebody has to go deal with Brandini. Yep, there's Nisqy. Using the ultimate to get there, because Brandini's threatening that turret. So he gets a semi-global ultimate out of Nisqy, but he keeps his teleport.
Brandini has 3,400 health and 127 magic resistance against this AP-heavy team. It's going to take a lot of work to burn him down, and it would have took a lot of work for 100 Thieves to burn that Baron down as well. As soon as the control ward comes over the wall from Splyce, they head home.
I think that was smart from 100 Thieves. Just start it, see if the Splyce are aware of what is going on. Maybe even get a TP out from one of the members of Splyce. But there was no intention of committing to it. They recognize, okay, this is too big of a gamble. If Splyce are going to get back into this game, it's through a Baron steal, and we already have pressure on the side lanes. We're really confident that with our draft, the enemy team isn't really even going to be able to out-team fight us because of, you know, the amount of magic resistance that we can just keep stacking up. And you can even see it. Hex Drink are now finished for Cody Sun, Brandini, Spirit's Visage, and the Warmogs. Like, yes, there is that late game potential, but like this is the thing we keep talking about, right, Zirene, where even though this is a good team fight comp, because it is so focused on magic damage, you have to question how strong it really is when you get to that 3-4 item point.
Yeah, you have to get like the perfect team fight. Catch them all clumped with an Alistar headbutt pulverize into a Vladimir ultimate. Like, it has to be almost perfect, or at least get rid of Cody Sun and then find a way to kill Brandini later. Because Mundo's damage output against mages, it just seems like people always complained about how can this tank 1v1 me? It's like Mundo is kind of the epitome of that, where he's going to run down any squishy champion or be able to at least compete with most mages and kind of knock them down with all the extra AD he gets from his E and all the % HP damage he does.
100 Thieves still maintaining control over this game, but the lead hasn't really grown. If anything, it's shrunk a little bit since where it was before. Splyce has done a fantastic job of staunching that bleeding, holding on, allowing themselves to scale, and the Thieves haven't been able to do what you were talking about earlier, Vedius, and find those plays, find those opportunities to make anything happen.
While that's true, they also maintained a lot of control around the Baron, and this is extremely crucial at this point in the game, just because Splyce are the ones at the disadvantage. When we talk about how they need a perfect team fight, that becomes harder and harder when you just have no information or vision of what the enemy team is doing, which means that this pick comp that 100 Thieves have is that much stronger. You walk into Fog of War, you face check a bush, and there's the risk of you getting caught out.
Here we go. Kasing deciding to lead this one off. Looking to go after Aphromoo, who has to flash away. He's going to be ignited there as well. Levi now in retreat. Ryu backing out to Aphromoo below 100 HP. Doesn't want anything to do with the rest of this fight, as that was a full 4v4, 2 members staying in the bottom side, one from each squad, not bothering to try to TP in or make a move on that one.
Although the summoner spells were used from both supports, which means that they will not obviously be available for the next fight, but nothing again really gained. It feels like both teams a little afraid to hard commit to anything at this point in the game, when these have already demonstrated that they were that much stronger in the mid game. Even then, as you identified, Flaz, you know, they didn't really try to force that many plays. They haven't really taken that many extra towers, and this goal differences kind of stayed the same, around 2.5K, and it all is going to boil down to one big Baron fight between the two teams, and that fight should be pretty explosive.
This game and the pace of things right now feel very indicative to me of the two stories of these teams so far at this event. Neither team has managed to find a win for themselves yet. Both teams want to find that win here in the final game of group stages, and so both are just a little bit unsure about making a move that just doesn't feel perfect. They don't want to make the call that loses their side the game.
But which is actually funny at the same time, because it's not like the stakes of their region is actually here, because if you lose this, it doesn't change the outcome.
But it's pride on the line, man.
So if anything, they're just in their own heads about this, and it isn't external pressure, it's pressure they're putting on themselves to perform, because they believe they can perform at a higher level than what they've shown.
But I think you've also got to remember that coming back into the regular season, week 4 is immediately after Rift Rivals, right? And for Splyce, they currently sit at a 2-4 record, very near the bottom of the LCS table, and for 100 Thieves, they sit at the top, they're 4-2. So the fact that they're both having the performances that they are kind of can weigh on their mind as they return back to regularly scheduled LCS games. And naturally, 100 Thieves want to continue sitting at the top, but with all these roster moves, they wanted to see what can happen with these changes, and going 0-3 in the group stages is not the kind of performance that you'd want to demonstrate with 2 new players on the roster.
Absolutely not. You can see Levi now working on a big magic resistance item of his own. Has the Spectre's Cal bottom side, though. It's Brandini in the 1-versus-1 against Odoamne, trying to make the dive happen, but Odo's doing a good job kiting him around, keeping himself alive with the healing. Odo with a flash out, Kobbe coming in now as backup, but Mundo's health bar doesn't look like he was part of a turret dive at all.
He just pulled 3 people to him. And that means that Xerxe has to be in position here for a smite steal, or else this is going to go over to 100 Thieves. It looks like he's here in time, and I think they're going to pull off of this.
Two-shot barrage came through to make sure that Splyce knew exactly what was going on, but the call is to stay on Baron. TP's coming in towards the mid lane. Splyce wants to stop this.
Levi's like, I'm out of the pit. Boys.
Levi says, no way we're going to risk the game like this, but it looks like 100 Thieves are still thinking about it. Kasing looking to go in. Levi's able to make the flash, able to find the pull, still looking to find the suppress onto Kobbe, and it's Ryu who goes in and finds the kill. 100 Thieves have already found one, and it's a big one at that. Kasing going to be number 2. Xerxe has to be out of the picture, though, in order for this to be a completely safe call. Brandini will run interference and keep him away as the Thieves head right back onto Baron.
Beautifully played by Levi, having the target set onto Kobbe and executing with perfection. He drags the carry in. The rest of Splyce don't know what to do, but with the jungler alive, can Splyce find themselves a steal?
Nisqy and Odoamne trying to do 2-versus-4 at the edge of this Baron pit to stop 100 Thieves. Cody Sun going to take a lot of damage from the Ryze there, and it seems like 100 Thieves will be forced away from the objective this time. Levi tries to go in and stop him. Nisqy's going to be caught out, and they shut down Odoamne as well, and that is now a 9-2 game. 100 Thieves onto the Baron. Xerxe, do you try to make the hero play here? I think the answer is no. He knows there's nothing that can be done, and the Thieves, the third time is the charm, look to take the Baron.
And they baited the fight. Though. Yeah, they baited the fight. They ended up getting the Baron off that. Now the game is blown wide open.
Eventually, they ended up getting the Baron, but 100 Thieves, they were pretty much in full control throughout this entire fight. It was them who started off the Baron. The clutch Black Shield from Levi into an immediate flash, locks down Kobbe, and then Ryu is there for the follow-up. Nothing but perfect damage and execution allows them to find those picks, which starts off this Baron for 100 Thieves.
And I could just see the elation from Captain Flowers, where he's like, that is the best Morgana combo with a Skarner. He's like, I love it when they do that. And right here, the E into the pull there from Ryu to interrupt Nisqy's ultimate to make sure that Odoamne also sacrificed himself, taking that bet that he would get out.
Skarner follows the same golden rule as Blitzcrank. 1 pull, 1 game. even if nothing happens for so long and you're not finding a ton, if you just find that one big pull that results in that one big fight that gets you that one big Baron, all of a sudden, you might just win big. Cody Sun might be in some trouble here. Instead, it's going to be Aphromoo who's knocked up and beat down. A shutdown goes over to Kobbe as they grab the 100 Thieves support. Levi's skrittering in there, but I don't know what he's going to find.
Yep, and you saw the reaction there. Aphromoo black shielded Cody, and he's the one who actually got the ultimate thrown at him there from Xerxe. So it's about the black shield usage. So far, it's been on point for Aphromoo, but they catch him right there because it's just too fast.
Problem is, this is the first sign of proactivity that we've actually seen from the Splyce roster, but it is too little too late as Brandini gonna kill Nisqy.
That is a merciless headbutt. Brandini just running after him, looking to take him down. Another cleaver finds him. Looking to make the flash play. Nisqy living with just a sliver of health. I'd love to see the exact number on that one, but ooh, he's got to be wiping the sweat off his forehead for that.
Mundo's a great damage source.
You said it before, and now it has been proven. First and foremost, right here in the bottom lane, as 100 Thieves will continue this multi-lane pressure. 3 men here in the mid lane. Remember, you still got Levi ready to go with that pull if he finds a suitable target.
Makes me happy to see a North American team not just grouping up mid and running it down, spreading their pressure across the map. 100 Thieves playing this nicely. Brandini now getting collapsed on.
This is how much it'll take to bring down that Mundo. He's still walking away. They finally bring him down, but at the cost of their mid lane inhibitor turret. Potentially the inhibitor here as well. A little bit more damage from the auto attacks. Cody Sun will take that one out. Ryze Realm Warp coming in. They want to try to collapse here. A nice black shield going to keep Cody in good condition as he dashes away, puts himself on the other side of the Splyce roster. Kasing gets himself dragged away. They recognize the ability to kill him even through the ultimate. Xerxe moves forward, finds a little bit of damage, still not going to count. Ryu goes into the zone, his hourglass with Odoamne now in the back line in the wrong spot, as he will likely get himself out of this one. Levi doesn't have the damage to take him down in zone, and now he's caught out as well. 2 dead, 3 dead on the side of 100 Thieves if you count the Mundo from earlier.
So pretty good a fight for Splyce, but think about what they lost on the back end there. Mid inhibitors down, they've lost so many adder towers, and while they might be able to get one turret back, this is simply a kind of picking up the scraps after 100 Thieves has just torn apart the base of Splyce.
And what you were saying, Vedius, you love seeing a North American team not all group mid and start spreading their pressure around. Splyce were happy to see that too. They caught Brandini, they killed the Mundo on the side, and he is one of the biggest threats in the entire composition to the way that these mages function. So with him off the table, they are 100% happy to take this fight. Nisqy gives the ultimate over to Xerxe, who's almost has his ultimate back up. It's up in 2 seconds here, and they get onto Cody and Afro, but then it's just this over chase here. They do actually push up and get them eventually, but Odoamne off on the side. They get to focus down Ryu in a second.
Yeah, and I actually think that Ryu should have just backed off at this point. There's no need for him to overstay. They thought that with with Kasing dead, that 100 Thieves could continue with this fight because it's now become a 4v4, but so many of your ultis and abilities have been used that you can't really afford to stick around in this fight, and as you rightly identified, Zirene, just a bit of an overextension from the side of 100 Thieves has allowed Splyce to find a bit of a team fight win.
And now we finally have some QSSs. So Kobbe has the QSS. I thought he'd be the one to buy it because Mercurial Scimitar does not help mages really that much or at all in terms of the stats it provides. But the QSS for Nisqy is an interesting one. It's going to lower his damage later in the game, but make sure that he isn't the person who gets grabbed by the Skarner. But it's funny because the people who are on the front line are the ones that don't have the QSSs themselves. The people who, if they get picked, you probably lose the game.
100 Thieves now hanging around this Baron area yet again. There's no big purple worm to fight over, but this is that area that you want to maintain that constant control over, like you talked about earlier, Vedius. As long as you can choke out their information, you keep them in their base, you keep them guessing.
Exactly that, Flowers. And while the vision... Ooh, Brandini, he's going for the 1v1 against Odo.
He is just fearless on this Mundo, and there's no reason not to be, if I'm being quite honest. He
doesn't
can't
even use
take
the
any
ult.
damage. Yeah, that's ultimateless. He's just regenerating from the Warmogs now as the Realm Warp comes in on the top side. It's Levi who tries to shut down the initiation, but now he's going to be thrown back into the rest of the team, going to be bursted down rather rapidly, goes into the stopwatch anyway. Kasing now in some trouble. Ryu comes in from the side, and Aphromoo grabs the kill credit on the enemy support as Brandini is making himself at home in the enemy base. Now having to run away from 2. Kobbe trying to continue to chase along with Odoamne, but the cleaver comes out and Brandini gets away.
I thought 100 Thieves would wait for the next Baron, but they are looking to push their advantage as much as possible. Now Xerxe's been caught.
Xerxe getting himself out of that one. Not really under any threat any longer, but you can't say the same thing for the top lane inhibitor that now finds itself exposed and vulnerable. 100 Thieves continuing the 4-man push up here while Brandini does his magic in the bottom side. This is make or break for Splyce. There is no way out of this one if you lose any more. Bottom lane inhibitor turret under threat. Top lane inhibitor very, very easy to take down now for the side of 100 Thieves. If you lose too much more, you're on permanent Nexus guard duty.
Certainly are. Splyce going for another engage.
Brandini now the target yet again. They drop the ignite to make sure the healing's not as effective as it could be, but sure enough, it's too many resources put into a target that is just too damn hard to kill. 100 Thieves say, all right, 3 men bottom, summoner spell, sure thing, we'll take the inhib, no worries. See you soon, because now the whole team can put that effort into bottom lane and look for the last inhib.
Yeah, this Mundo's tankiness is just too damn high. He didn't even have ultimate there. It was 5 seconds. If they had kept chasing him, it would have just been for 30+ seconds before they could actually kill him. So he's just buying time. He's buying space here. And I think they're going to actually keep him bottom lane here because the Baron is up in 5 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, 100 Thieves are playing this extremely well, but I do have a big criticism that I got to throw towards 100 Thieves, and that is, let's bring back the items on Cody Sun. Because the entirety of this game, he has been sitting on a Doran's Blade, which he has now sold for a GA. He is copping out of buying control wards.
He needed those extra stats.
That is shameful.
They were very important.
The entire team had so many control
That's like
wards.
7 AD.
It was Cody Sun that was back then.
Wait,
shame on you, Cody Sun.
He didn't need him to beat EU. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, he said, I need my 7 AD. What if somebody lives with 7 health? Then I'm going to feel terrible. As Brandini just takes a walk through the enemy base, a casual afternoon stroll. 100 Thieves, 4-manning down the Baron. It's Xerxe over the wall that poses the threat, though. 2 different TPs going to be channeled. Kasing going in. It's going to be a full-on fight as Levi takes a lot of damage here, having to pop the ulti, dragging Xerxe away, having to flash out himself. Doesn't want to lose that smite for the side of his team, as Kasing will be the first one to fall. But they also lose Ryu on the side of 100 Thieves. Cody looking to find the damage further, even here onto Odoamne. Kobbe going to be taken lower, as it is the Guardian Angel popped on the side of 100 Thieves AD carry. Levi nearly dead here. The Thieves happen to be so careful with these health bars. Kobbe goes forward, looking to find the last auto attack. He gets it onto Levi, as Cody Sun will be kept alive by the Black Shield and Brandini. It's time to run rampant with the Mundo in the back lines, or is it? Wants to get himself over the wall, does find the flash. Kobbe's still going after him. Brandini walks away. 100 Thieves are feeling all right, but I think Splyce is feeling better after having shut that Baron down.
Their base, though, they are about to have super minions on their base. Brandini is about to have his ultimate as well in about 10 seconds.
Yeah, they can't commit to this.
100 Thieves saying, you chased us off, we're gonna chase you off, everybody's gonna be chased down, and Nisqy is in real danger of getting just cut to pieces by those cleavers. Kobbe can get himself out with the use of the Blast Cone and the Arcane Shift, walk through the wall gate, and the Nexus turret is not looking so hot.
And Splyce find a successful fight after so long. 4 members of 100 Thieves grouped up in the pit. Splyce get the kind of AoE setup that they're after, but because they stay in the fight for so long, Nisqy ends up dying. Levi and Ryu have already respawned, and now it's 100 Thieves back on the Baron. That was their big opportunity to come back, and now all hope lies onto Xerxe. Can he get the steal?
I don't think he even tries for this stuff. He's 1-0-5. He doesn't feel like risking it. The Skarner outplay is very easy with the
Oh, that was Mundo that got that bear, and that could have just as easily been a true shot barrage.
Yeah, Levi was not having any of that. Just on vacation, going and garden if Xerxe was even going to try. So, wasn't his job.
Hey, he knows these days with all the funnel comps, sometimes it's mid laners who have smites. He doesn't have to worry about it.
Oh, that was insanely close.
Yeah.
It's 110.
That's what I'm saying. Could have very easily gone the way of Splyce, but it did not, which means one Uber buff is in possession of the side of 100 Thieves, and now they're looking at the other. Elder Drake alive and well, and with 100 Thieves having 3 elementals under their belt, that is a vicious true damage burn.
It certainly is. 100 Thieves have full control pretty much over the entirety of the map. All 3 inhibitors are exposed, with 1 being down. I believe it's going to respawn relatively soon. I honestly think that 100 Thieves don't really need this Elder Drake to end the game, just because of how well they've actually been playing the 1-3-1. And it does feel like that with all this AP down, Splyce just cannot get through this Mundo, as Levi just trying to zone the members of Splyce away.
I'm surprised there's no adaptive helm for Brandini. He actually went for an armor item and then also execution calling so he can duel. He's like, I'm just gonna fight the Vladimir.
I'm gonna mess Vladimir up. Kasing, speaking of getting messed up, he's in a lot of trouble. Even through the ultimate, you're not surviving that one. Cody Sun goes unstoppable. It's Brandini into the back line. Alone, though, Gargoyle Stoneplate keeps him nice and alive as Xerxe now has to run for his own life. It's Odoamne into the back line, finds a multi-man ult, but still gets taken down. The power of the suppress coming through pretty big there as Xerxe tries to retreat. It's still a 5-man push from the 100 Thieves as the chants ring through the arena and the hometown fans want their team to take this win. Nexus turret number 2 under fire, and it's already gone. 100 Thieves on to the Nexus now, and they will find their win. 41 minutes in.
Whew, a much longer game compared to what we've seen throughout the day, but it was 100 Thieves that ended up closing things out. They played pretty patiently around the Baron. They used their pick comp pretty effectively with the pressure that they had across the side lanes. And it was our big boy Brandini that came in clutch at the very end. Splyce could not shut him down, and his Mundo performance was what many fans were hoping to see.
And did we not say this was his chance at redemption this game after having his premier game at Rift Rivals be a game that would be very difficult for anyone to perform well on? He was given the tools and the setup to succeed in this game, and he did just that.
Yeah, he bought so much space for the team. The fact that they were throwing 2, 3 people at him constantly, and then he'd even just smack down one of the people that was answering him to below a 3rd HP. He caused so much in terms of pressure, but it did take them a long time to close it out because they were basically saying it's a slow and steady kind of wins the race here for 100 Thieves. They knew that they would eventually win the game, and they knew that they would lose if they went a little too fast, had wrong engages. So it looked like they just kind of cruised through this one.
And that feels good for 100 Thieves going into the big relay race competition, the finale of Rift Rivals tomorrow, having that win under their belt now. Bit of a confidence booster. Brandini's feeling good now. He's had a game where he was able to shine, showcase what he can do in a game where he has those opportunities. And it's not just the Brandini show. We saw some good engages from Levi. That big flash pull onto Kobbe in the team fight near Baron that set them up to get that first Baron for the side of 100 Thieves, the playmaker they needed.
Oh, the black shields were also a big part of that too.
You gotta love shields like that, but to hear more from the victors from that last game in groups, let's send it down to the stage to Avli and the top laner who goes where he pleases.
Thanks, guys. Brandini, congratulations with that win. You picked up your first win for your debut event with 100 Thieves. I mean, you looked unstoppable on that Mundo. How did that game go for you?
That game was just me farming for like 20 minutes until I get MR items and just run at people.
Now, we heard Brandini chants towards the end of the game. How does that compare to people not really enjoying your performance from yesterday?
I think it's understandable. I shouldn't have played as bad as I did yesterday, but it was really rough of a situation, but I should have adapted to it.
I mean, there's got to be a lot of pressure on you replacing Ssumday, one of the fan top favorites. How did you deal with that?
I've had the similar experience on Echo Fox when I played instead of Looper, so I'm kind of used to it by now.
And tomorrow you guys have the regional best of fives. How are you going to prepare to face those EU teams again?
We just have to learn from our mistakes and just get better as we go.
Well, thank you and congratulations again on your win. And for more on the game, let's hear from the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Avli. Small consolation, but we'll take it as 100 Thieves picks up the win here against Splyce, although EU still being victorious on the day for group stage. That is, taking a look at how they did it, let's pull the team comps up. What do you guys want to talk about?
I don't see the team comps. There are generally standard team comps by both teams. As Brandini mentioned, get to late game against double AP solo lanes and Ezreal. A non-double tier Ezreal, by the way, so slightly lower damage. Made it relatively easy for Brandini to have a lot of effect in team fights. So when it gets that late, I think 100 Thieves has the advantage, but it's because Splyce didn't take advantage earlier.
Yeah, the Splyce draft is like Spring Split standard from their side. They like to play like Vladimir top with Odoamne, and they tried in Spring Split to get some kills for him in the early game. Didn't really happen here. Kobbe is on a traditional AD carry where he can have teamfight impact. As you highlighted, no double tier, so I didn't like that part. But in general, I think Splyce got comfort picks. Not exactly something that's crazy in the meta or anything, nothing that can surprise. They just really didn't know what to do in the late game. I think they blew their ultis from Odoamne on a Mundo in the side lane, at least 4 times. And then immediately right after, there was a big team fight where then there was no Vladimir ult. Stuff like that really hurt their potential comeback chances.
I want to take a look at some early kills that fell in favor of 100 Thieves. 4 of them in the early game. This, of course, helps them accelerate their pace towards that late game team fighting stage.
Yeah, and the great Brandeezy kind of starting this one off by kiting it all out. They kind of engage on him, but then refocus down onto Levi, which just the split focus is enough for 100 Thieves to go out and take this lead.
Yeah, and the engage itself was strange from Splyce. Like, they blow everything at first on Brandini with the Alistar combo, and then Nisqy walks from the bottom side just alone to join his team, and he just gets hooked by a Skarner and, like, dies. It's like, oh, okay, so we used our engage OP on the Mundo, who's safe and out of the fight, and our mid lane just died the moment the fight started. Not really great.
If we fast forward to later in the game, though, around the Baron, that's where a lot of that action took place that you talked about, Deficio. But Chad,
yeah,
go for it.
Captain Flowers had mentioned that you just need one good Skarner pull, and he gets it onto Kobbe there, and Ryu's able to follow it up. So with Ezreal dead, it is just magic damage left on the team, which doesn't give them much. Then also, as Splyce is trying to get the later defense, pretty easy to line them up for that Skarner stun. They get Ryze out of the ultimate, and boom, more kills and Baron.
And that was a triple Cloud Drake team, and whenever you have Mundo, Swain, and Skarner, all who kind of just want to charge at you, that triple Cloud Drake made it pretty easy to get those chase downs early on against the mages, who, if they got ahead, they're both bruisery mages, so maybe it could have worked out, but the 4-0 before that really set them behind.
I think the goal graph here shows, like, 17 minutes in, roughly, they start getting the lead around the Rift Herald, the replay we showed first. They kind of kept the lead for the entire game, and while there were a few situations where they dropped down a little bit, they looked like the better team. And it says a lot about Splyce and the current level that even against 100 Thieves, who's not looked good in the first 2 games they played, there still seemed to be quite a difference in skill.
Yeah, and I do think this makes tomorrow very interesting because EU won the group stage 5-4. Like, they won 1 more game than North America. So that gives them the advantage as far as being able to choose the matchups after Team Liquid, or after NA throws their team out forward.
There you go.
So I'm hoping the best of 5 actually goes 4 or 5 games because
it will go 4.
You can argue about draft with Fnatic versus TL, whether or not that would swing it. You could argue in this game, right, whether or not Splyce just totally fumbled too many of the mid-game plays and could have won in some ways. And I'm just thinking it's actually pretty close.
Yeah. Moving ahead to the later portion of today, of course, we got the 2v2 gauntlet ahead of us. I did want to get you guys' quick thoughts on that. More so, which region do we think is going to reign supreme, as really anything can happen, as we've seen so far with the 2v2s?
I really like Doublelift and Ole working with their team because I think Smithy and Pobelt do a good job playing around them, but they don't have that here. And just in terms of 2v2 synergy, Doublelift and Ole are not always on the same page, eating a minion instead of Doublelift that one time on display already.
Don't really trust an Echo Fox bot lane either, personally.
And to clarify, the starting rosters for best bot lane in the West are the 2 players who have played the most games in bottom lane and support. So this isn't like the side selection games where you can just pick 2 players
good
and make it a 2v2. So that means we're going to get, you know, Alltech and Adrian, Doublelift and Ole, 100 Thieves ascending down, Cody Sun and Aphromoo, and we're also getting Whippo and Hillsing. No record in this tournament.
I love it. You got Whippo and Hillsing. So I want to get some actual official predictions out there on the board. Just the region that will crown the champion in the 2v2 gauntlet. I personally am going to go with EU. What I think those bot lanes have shown far superior to I know, right? We're starting full circle. Okay, Mark, what are you thinking?
Come on.
Europe?
Yeah.
This is going to be sad, dude. You're
all
all going Europe,
all right,
aren't we?
Deficio, what are you thinking?
I think Europe.
What have you not thought Europe, Deficio?
It's true. I mean, I was right this event, so I'm sticking with Europe.
Can you say NA physically?
No,
like if you wanted
I can't.
to? No, it's
potato in my mouth also is like, I can't get it
Those
out.
2 letters don't go in that order. What about you, Jad? You gonna?
Mark was undefeated in predictions today, so I have to just
Now
hop
you're
on the
align
Mark
with him.
I'm
Now
gonna
you're
hop on
going
the
to
Mark
align with him.
bandwagon and take EU.
Traitorous at the beginning of the day.
It's tricky, right? A lot of it is about whether or not you've theory crafted the right matchup, pick the right matchup into it, and also know what you're doing. I feel like some of these guys didn't realize you started level 1 before some of the 2v2, but now they've had time to see 3 of the 2v2s happen. They've had a little bit of time to practice, especially the teams that ended a few hours ago. They're hopefully actually talking about this to try and get it, because the best bot lane in the West is very real, Dash.
That is a real title, and we are awarding it today. Groups are complete, but there's still more Rift Rivals coming up. We've got the master, or rather the matter, of who gets to wear the best in the West belts. The bot lane gauntlet begins after the break. It's actually pretty smooth right here.